The sentences below have words that are missing. Choose the best option from those given below to complete this sentence. Okay, look at the first sentence. One who gets on with his job in spite of his obstacles, while the one who hardly shows any progress. The latter spends all his time about his trouble. So the best option is number 2. That is assiduous. Assiduous means showing a great deal of perseverance, showing great care and perseverance, diligence, carefulness, meticulousness. That would be the correct option here. He gets on with his job. But one who is querulous, that is quarreling and whining, is complaining, that is the best option. If you look at option number 1, one who is artful. Now, you don't require to be artful, cunning, or clever to get on with the job. You might require some kind of cleverness, skill, but then you require a lot of perseverance, and that is why we use the word assiduous. And speaking is a very general term. Doubtful and speaking are general terms. If you look at number 4, you see it is hot-headed. One who gets on hot-headed, he gets on with his job very well. Do hot-headed people get on with their jobs? I don't think so, right? While the one who is in distress, one who is scared hardly shows any progress. I don't know, why should he be scared? Or why should he cry about his troubles? Crying, that is not a very good word. So the best option is number 2. Take the next sentence. The opposite of multiculturalism in times of war or economic distress, tribalism is what causes those in power to confine groups of people with different ethnicities into ghettos or in communes on the margins of their cities. So I have read out the answer. I have spelled out the answer. Number 4 is the correct option. If you say the rise of multiculturalism in times of war or economic doldrums, I mean, you can say economic or war doldrums, but then the rise of multiculturalism there has no syntactic relationship to tribalism. It's like putting two things, unrelated things together. But when you say the opposite of multiculturalism and then you come to tribalism, then there is a relationship. And that is why you require the word opposite here. There is nothing tyrannic about multiculturalism or the antithesis, or you say that war or economic prosperity doesn't go with the context of the sentence. Okay, so the correct option is number 4. Take the next sentence, that the artist went about systematically to get traditional motifs and designs back into the mainstream and created a textile culture for dance is to be celebrated. The answer is number 2. To get traditional motifs, you see, that is a word that is used in painting, in artistry, right? Or even sculpturing. And created, that is also a word used there, specific words. The others aren't specific. You see, they aren't specific. If you say get traditional practices and then and processed a textile culture or evolved a textile culture or described a textile culture, they aren't specific. The specific word is motive, to get traditional motives and designs. Now, if you say traditional stories, it doesn't make any sense. To get traditional stories and then you say describe the textile culture. That doesn't suit, that doesn't match, you see. So the correct answer is number 2. The next sentence, in response to my friend's request, I decided to write her a letter, which I hope would be honest and practical, while also serving as a map of sorts for my own feminist thinking. This book is a version of that letter with some details changed. Now, if you say that the answer is number 1, see, there are specific words. He says also serving as a chart of sorts, and then this book is the form of that letter. No, it is not a form of that letter. It can't be a chart of that sort. Or if you say serving as a base of sorts, what kind of a base? And then book cannot be a fallout of that letter. So the correct answer, and of course the last one doesn't work, doesn't suit. So the correct answer is number 1. Take the next sentence. Quantum physics really begins to point to this discovery. It says you can't have a universe without mind into it, and the mind is actually the very thing that is being. Okay, Suppose you say without the mind getting into it, and that the mind is actually creating the very thing that is being acknowledged. Now, what is being acknowledged? It's not specific. Okay. Number two, you say without the mind intruding into it. Does the mind intrude? I don't think so. Making the very thing that is being construed, or if you say penetrating into it, well, penetrating could be the right word. The mind actually forming the very thing that is being seen. Now look, forming, seen, penetrating, they are as good as number three, entering, shaping, perceived. But the language used here has to be specific. If we have a specific word or a phrase, then we can use that. So a better phrase would be entering, shaping, and perceived. Instead of saying that is being seen, you should say it is being perceived. Because when you're talking about perception, you're actually absorbing certain things in all its dimensions. Seen may be simply what you call an informal word in that sense. You just see something, but when you perceive, that is, you absorb, you see things in your mind. So the correct option would be number three. Coral reefs are one of the most fragile, biologically complex and diverse marine ecosystems on the earth. On Earth, this ecosystem is one of the fascinating paradoxes of the biosphere. How do clear and thus nutrient-poor waters support such prolific and productive communities? The answer is number two. Now, why can't the answer be number one? You say one of the most common biological, okay, and then you say this ecosystem is one of the most sensitive paradoxes. Why sensitive? If you say it is common, then it cannot, I don't think it can be sensitive. First you say it is a commonality, and then you say it's sensitive. Supports such fruitful and productive communities? No, fruitful is incorrect usage. Okay. Number three, if you come to say one of the most deep biologically complex. Now what does that mean, deep biologically complex? Strange paradox could be correct. Okay. Such exuberant and productive communities. No, you cannot say exuberant and productive. How can you use the word exuberant to coral reef? You can't. That's a misuse of the word. If you say frail and then you say is one of the unrecognized paradoxes of the biosphere, that is also correct. But then wealthy will not suit. Support such wealthy and productive community. No, you are referring to the coral reef, not to the human community, so don't say wealthy. So the correct answer is number two. Take the next sentence. It is a privilege to live in a land without bigotry. Even with all the technological advancement, economic growth, there are still millions who live in war zones where life every day is filled with terror. Okay, if you say it is a coincidence to live in a land without prejudice, and then you say that there are millions who live in war zones where life every day is filled with adventure. You see, that much is correct. Coincidence and adventure is correct, but then the word prejudice, to live in a land without prejudice, it doesn't mean much. So the correct word should be bigotry here, and then terror. So it is a lovely to live in a land without pride, and then you say that it doesn't mean anything. It is a lovely to live with pride, without pride. It is lovely to live in a land without pride. What does that mean? It doesn't mean it. So it is a punishment to live in a land without hate. No. How can you say that? That is incorrect. Can you say that it is a punishment to live in a land without hate? That is, you are supporting hate. Okay, so the correct answer is number two. The next sentence, the ability to shape and guide a cohesive team is particularly critical in high-tech firms where the competitive landscape can shift dramatically in the face of disruptive technologies. You see, the number one could have been correct. You see, the ability to mentor and keep a cohesive team. But then, where the sustainable landscape can shift dramatically, that is incorrect. You can't use sustainable in that sense. Okay. If you look at number three, the ability to drive and maintain a cohesive team is correct. Where the tectonic landscape, it doesn't get much sense. And the ability to involve and manage a team, that's correct. Where the green landscape can shift in the face of disruptive technologies. What is he talking about? A metaphor? Is he literally talking about a landscape? No, he's talking about metaphorically. So you can't use the word green landscape. So the correct answer is number 2. The next sentence, cool-headed and rational, Zhou Incha is a talented and driven anchorman who commands as well as demands respect. After failing to get elected as a news director, he aims to return to his job as the top news anchor to increase his chances of being elected the next year. The answer is number 2. If you say that as well as demands respect after happening to get elected as a news director, no. If you say after happening to get as a news editor, he aims to quit to his job. How can you say that? That is incorrect. To increase his hopes, if you say he is already elected, then what's the point in saying that he will be elected next year? He's already elected. If you say that. If you say after happening to get elected, which is un-English to say happening to get elected, then the sentence says that next year he hopes to get elected. So the two parts of the sentence don't match. If you look at number 3, after hoping to get elected, he aims to upgrade to his job. That is incorrect English. You can't say upgrade to his job. You upgrade certain things. And to increase his certainty of being so, that is incorrect. And after going to get elected as a news director, he aims to give up to his job. How can you say give up to his job? That is incorrect English. So the correct answer is number 2. The next sentence, a collective investment fund, that is CIF, also known as collective investment trust, is a group of pooled accounts held by a bank or trust company. The financial institution groups assets from individuals and organizations to develop a larger diversified portfolio. So when you go by the word meaning, collective investment, etc., so the word should be pooled. Okay, the word should be pooled, not diverse or different, right? Or even financial. So the correct answer is number 4. Is a group of if you say diverse accounts held by a bank or trust and account. The financial institution discounts assets. Now that doesn't make any sense. Even if you look at what you call number 2, number 1, the financial institution discount assets from individuals and organizations to conceive a larger diversified portfolio. Well, if it's going to conceive, then what's the point? It's already conceived. It has to develop. It is already there. So you can't say conceive. If you look at again different and collected, then the word simulate is incorrectly used. Okay, simulate. And in the number 3, synthesize and covered, they are not correctly used. So the correct answer is number 4. When we think about listening, we tend to assume that it is basically the same thing as hearing. Same as hearing. This is what? This is a what? This is a misconception because it leads us to believe that effective listening is instinctive. As a result, we make little effort to learn or develop listening skills and thereby neglect a vital communication function. The answer is number D. As vaccination rates rise and governments relax their pandemic regulations, the recovery of the events ecosystem is happening faster than expected. Event management professionals see the number of events and event attendance reaching and potentially surpassing pre-pandemic levels in 2019. So the correct answer is number A. This man was actually the manager the company ever had. So the answer is number C. This well-groomed, assertive man was actually the compassionate manager the company ever had. The best strategy is to give an appraisal. To give an appraisal is to deliver it orally as well as in writing. So the correct answer is number C. Take the next sentence. The Aravalli Range is the oldest surviving geological feature anywhere in the world. These were once tall mountains, possibly as high as the Himalayas. Over hundreds of millions of years, these tall mountains have been eroded to low hills and ridges. Yet these diminutive hills have been witness to important events in Indian history. I think the answer is number C.